In this video, we're going to take a look at the encoders on our Stadium Series products. I'm on an MQ250M console and I've got 10 encoder playbacks above my regular fader playbacks. Now there's a couple of operations for these encoder playbacks. You can treat them as just regular playbacks. So if I bring down this queue I'm currently on here, I could just go and grab, say, my spots at the top. Let's locate and bring them on, and I could just simply go and record, and you can click on the encoder and use it like an S button, and I've now selected and recorded to that encoder playback. Clear off my programmer. For each one of the encoders, you've got your flash button, and the encoder works like a fader. So you can see I'm winding up intensity and back down again. The push on the button works like an S button, so you can double tap to open your Q stack window, or triple tap to open up your Q stack options window. Or if you want to remove the playback, if I switch it off, remove, tap, yes, and delete. Now there's a couple of other things you can do with these encoder playbacks. If the encoder playback is empty, like in my show here now, encoder above playback number 10 is empty, I recorded on playback 10 earlier a look on this particular playback, and you can see I've got my Sharpies on the floor doing an effect there of colour and position. Now if I go back to my layout view here and I open up my Q stack window by double tapping my select button, then I go to the view options window. Under the fader tab, you'll see you've got your encoder mode, and you'll see encoder mode both on fader and encoder playbacks. Why would you see it on a fader playback? Well, if the encoder above is empty, the encoder is going to relate to the fader below if you've got nothing recorded on that encoder playback. So I've selected the Q stack options for fader number 10, encoder above it's empty, so I'm going to go down and choose its control type. You can see it's set to this playback, and above that it's encoder mode. I'm going to change the encoder mode to effect size and speed. Now I've got the normal intensity control on my fader, but because the encoder above is empty, it becomes size and speed control, as you can see there, for the effect running on the fader below. And if I wind that back up again, you can see back up to normal speed. So that's set on playback 10 because the encoder above is empty. Now as soon as you record something onto the encoder, that breaks that link, and you can see it no longer controls size and speed because it's got its own item recorded on that encoder. What other controls have we got? Well, here I've got another cue that I recorded earlier, which is again for the spots up in the air this time. And I'm going to go to my encoder, and if you look at my encoder, you can see I recorded already those strike blinders at the sides there, and again the encoder is controlling intensity for them. Now if I'm using the encoder playbacks for things like blinders, I don't necessarily need the encoder control. I'm just going to hit the flash button when I want those to come on. So I can repurpose that encoder for something else. I'm going to click on the encoder 3 times to open up the Q stack options window for that encoder, and I can change the encoder mode. Instead of controlling this playback, the encoder it's on, I can change the encoder mode to control another playback, and here I can enter in the playback number. So I'm going to say playback number 4 from this encoder. I'm now going to change the encoder mode, and you can see I've got options of HTP. Well, I've already got HTP control on my fader. I could change to LTP control, effect size, effect speed, size and speed combined, rate or time. I'm just going to pick speed and size combined. So now I've got, for playback 4, I've got control of the size and speed of that effect on the encoder above. But I've not lost the flash button function. I can still use the flash button for my strike blinders below, and the encoder is controlling size and speed now for the item below because I've set it to other playback here. You can do even more than that with your encoder playbacks. Let's change this one just be size, and instead of other playback, I can have the encoder controlling all playbacks on this bank or on this page. If you go for page, it's obviously going to be all playbacks across all of the banks. I'm going to go for all playbacks on this page, clear out the control item because I've said all playbacks, and I'm going to go to the one next to it, press 3 times, and again I'm going to say all playbacks on this page, and this time I'm going to select speed. So I've now got size and speed on my encoders, and they should work for all playbacks on that page now. So you can see There's my size control, and here is my speed control. And they'll work for any playback. So if I release that one, bring up this one, and it's now using those Sharpies on the floor, I should have again my speed control and size control. And they'll work if you have both of those active at the same time, doing different effects as well. So that's your encoders on the Stadium series products.